myself busy. I ran around in circles, think I made myself dizzy.
All right, everybody, we are back with Love Journal. I know it's been a little minute. I took a little break for the holidays, but I'm getting back to it. Today I have a new guest. And we met last week, and I enjoyed the conversation so much. I was like basically interviewing for her show, and I was like, no, you know what? No, I need you to come on mine too. Like, but yeah, today our guest is Drunken Buddha, and just let the people know just a little spiel about yourself.
Hey, first of all, hello everyone. I'm so happy to be here. As he said, we met last week and he has such a great energy, such a great vibe.
I try.
I was like, yes, I would be honored to come on. And so a little bit about me, I'm just a person out here in the cosmos, just trying to figure life out like the rest of us.
That is it. That's what it's all about. I'm telling you. With that in mind, so there's two things I usually like to try and do at the beginning of the show before we kind of dive in. One of them I can't do, but it's like I have a song bowl and I like to just clear out the energy, But I don't have that with me because I'm not at home. But the other one I like to do, and I've said it on the show a couple times, probably say it a million more times, but around the time I started the show, one of the things that like prompted me to start the show was that I realized I was kind of angry at love. I had an issue with it. Like I couldn't watch rom-coms and love scenes. I would be like, turn that shit off. Like I couldn't listen to love songs. It was just annoying. So I kind of felt bitter towards it, And I realized, I kind of had to tell myself that that's not okay. Love didn't do anything to you. It's these situations, these people, but love didn't betray you.
Right.
And doing so, I came to the show, and one of the things that I learned from, I've learned a lot about myself from the past 2 seasons. And by season 3, I was like, damn, I can listen to love songs again. Like I can watch like I'm okay now. Like I can hear it and be like, hey, singing along versus, turning it off really quick. Skip.
Getting triggered. Yeah.
Yes. There's no more triggers in regards to that. So with that in mind, I like to try to start the episode with a love song of the week.
Okay.
Now, if you have one, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. But mine today is Diary by Alicia Keys.
Wow.
Right, a jam. But like I just love as a writer, the lyrical content is just A+. To have somebody that you can basically treat like your diary. That not a lot of people get that, and especially when it comes to love, because people don't realize how important it is. Like I've heard people talk about relationships be in relationships where they didn't talk or anything. It's like, well, how the hell are you with this person? Like, what? Excuse me?
Yeah, I can't imagine having a partner and not be able to talk to them, because what's the point,
Literally, you're supposed to be like, and we're supposed to be that for each other, not even like a one-way thing. Like I should be yours, you should be mine. So yeah, that's my love song of the week. Did you possibly have one that comes to mind, or?
I could have a few.
Okay.
Yeah, and R&B is my jam. So,
same.
You know what? I would have to say "Blind Man" by Xavier Omar.
Okay, I've heard. I got one of his songs on my iTunes because like I've heard that name and it's clicking in my head. But
yeah, he's one of my favorite, and that one is about being able to connect with someone and love someone at a soul level. Like he says, I can love you with my eyes closed because you're just that beautiful. I can see your soul.
I love that.
And don't we all want that, right? I mean, maybe it's
but it's weird. You'd be so surprised at just a lot. People as humans, we're kind of weird, and the crazy thing is people don't like to say that for whatever reason. But that is like you hit it. Like we all want that.
Huh. Yeah, but you know what? I guess it's the traumas, right? So, and that's I realize exactly some people don't even know like what love feels like what it's supposed to be, what to expect. So I can see how,
No, because that's also the other thing about me starting the show. Like there was a couple of different reasons why I started it, and that's kind of another one because it was like I was reading The Mastery of Love. It's from the author who did The Four Agreements. I'm not sure if you.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. so he has another one called The Mastery of Love, and one of the things about it was just like how like how I said, I was, angry and things like that, but like we put all these labels and expectations on love, and we always have it. Like, the love between a mother and father, or, our parents, or between our siblings, our best friends. And it's like, I wanted to start paying attention to all those different ways I already had love in my life.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, and it can get complicated, right? Especially as you get older. Like for me, it was realizing that you attract, like you partner how you're parented, right?
Ooh.
So you, yeah. So I realized that, like I was attracting people of like, what is going on? And I had to look at, my dynamic of my parents.
Yep.
And say, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And I've been doing a lot of that, like, because with like, and I with our conversation that we had, I just mentioned how your life is always talking to you. Yeah. And in one of those ways is through the generations, generational curses. Like, if you don't, it's so important to pay attention to your parents, your grandparents, like as far back as you can go. It's so important to pay attention to that, because then you can start to see where the patterns are. And I started to pay attention to where the one that I had in my family, and I was like, okay, now I see it now. So I need to readjust this. I need to change this. But yeah, no, we yes.
I mean, that's what it's all about, though. That's life. Yes. You're supposed to reflect. You're supposed to constantly reflect.
And it drives me insane that people don't. Like, because I
don't know how you operate without reflecting on anything.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean, I think some people think of it as, and the crazy thing, ironically, when you don't, you end up doing this, but living in the past. And it's like, there's a difference from living in the past and reflecting on your life. Look back and pay attention. Like, hey, why did I make this choice? Who was I at this time? Was I really the victim, or was I on some bullshit? Like, people, it's so hard, because a lot of it does come down to looking at your own faults, and people cannot do that. Like, I have no problem being like, you know what? I fucked up.
That would be the first thing I say. You know what? This is what I did.
I was fucking tripping. Yeah, like people can't do that. So it becomes this thing where they don't even realize, without doing the reflection, you're still living back there anyway.
I mean, that's the perfect point, right? If you do not, like, what did they say? If you don't learn from your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Ooh, I love that one. Yeah, that's a good quote. Yep.
So it's like you're supposed to reflect and look at what you can learn from a situation and not relive the trauma. Like, you might get triggered. Well, that's the point. You have to get triggered to overcome.
It's like, why is this triggering me? Ask yourself, why does that? Why is that bothering me so much? Like, people just don't do that.
But I don't know. You know what I realized, though, is some people really don't know to ask themselves those questions.
Yeah.
And you would think it's so simple, but they just ride the wave and not say, why is this happening? It's like, why me?
I think it's because it's easier. Yeah, it's easier to just not reflect. It's easier to not look at yourself. It's easier to just go through life, be the victim, and all these things, versus paying attention and be like, oh,
but is it?
Because I think it's braver, or it's more difficult to really look at yourself. That's hard. Like, I know for myself, with doing the show, I've had to come to some harsh realities about myself. And really be like, all right, nigga, hey, let's we got some shit to work on, and people just, it's hard to do that, because people also, I think, look at it as negative. It's not like, oh, well, then that must mean there's something wrong with me. No, it's not nothing wrong with you. You're just human who has good and bad. We all have both sides. It's just a matter of, really locking in with it and figuring out where it comes from.
I can see that whole blaming yourself and going down that whole, I call it spiraling, where it starts here and you just keep going all the way down to the ground. And I guess, like, I've been working on empathy all my life, trying to understand other people, because I'm like, I don't get it.
And it will drive me nuts. Like, I've recently been to the place where I can just let other people's shit in their head just kind of You know, this ain't got nothing to do with me. That's my favorite quote currently. I'm like, you know what? This actually has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. But that's so groundbreaking, though. It's so groundbreaking when you can say to yourself,
because you want to
this
save
has
people.
Nothing to do with me, right?
You want to help people. You want to save people. You want, like, you can have. There's a friend of mine who has some addiction issues, and I'm like, I want to, because I see what you're ignoring in yourself. I see what you're trying to cover up. It's like, but this has nothing to do with me. You can point somebody in a direction or whatever the case is, but ultimately, you can't live life for nobody else but yourself. So it's just like, saying nothing to do with me. I love you. I love
one
you.
One of the things is like I really enjoyed, like many years ago, I used to read a lot of Ayanna Van Zant books.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things she said that hit me, because like especially a lot of empaths, you want to help people. It actually makes me feel good to be able to help someone, But what she said was like, when you get in the way of people learning their lessons, you end up learning their lessons right along with them. I was like, well,
now I'm going through some bullshit because I'm trying to help you learn your lesson. Like,
exactly.
Actually, this ain't got nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm. So that helped me remove myself. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Real quick, I got a shout out because you said Ayanna Van Zant. My favorite book by hers. I don't even know if I still have it, but like I've read it every couple years. Acts of Faith. It's like just daily, devotionals and stuff like that. And it was just like, I promise, it was like every single one of them was my life that day. I'm like, how did she know?
Yeah, that was absolutely one of my favorites.
Talent. Yeah, I bring it out every couple years.
Read it faithfully, like for many years. I used to keep it like in the bathroom, so when I get ready in the morning, just open it up and be like, all right. And it always set me straight that day. The other one that helped me, like, we go through cycles in life, so I've had many awakenings, but one of my awakenings was her one day my soul opened up 40-day and 40-night workbook. Ooh. That one was powerful.
That sound like it,
yeah. That had me crying, like, I was like, oh my god, so much I need to work on.
She'll definitely take you there.
Yeah,
I say that. Four Agreements. That's another one every couple years.
Yes.
And The Alchemist.
That's my all-time. Now, The Alchemist, I read twice a year now. Like I used to read it once a year, but now I read it twice a year, once in the beginning of the year and once at the end of the year. And I do that because I love that story so much. And every time I read it, I feel like I connect to a different part of the journey.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like how I gauge how far I've come. So that's one of my favorites.
Because I think it goes back to it's literally just one of my favorite quotes. But like, your life is always talking to you, and it's like, I think why that one clicks for me so much is because that's the whole story of like how all these different things were connecting for him to reach this point in his life. Like like even the bad parts. It was like all these things are happening for you.
Exactly. And that one helped me out too. That's also because I'm like, we get these ideas in our life, like, okay, we're going to do this and it's going to go like that. And realizing that life is not linear. It's not going to go straight how you want it. And there might be detours, but it's all for a reason. So
it's all helping you get to where you're trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great. This is why I was like, I wanted her to be a guest, because like the way that we can just
go in there, like,
because I realized I'm like, we didn't even bring up the topic for today.
No, but we just jumped into it. Yes, the vibes.
But I love it. But today what I kind of want to talk about was love and grief. I've been finding myself in a spot of trying to, or want to understand my grief and how to deal with it. I think, and it comes from two quotes came to mind when I came up with the topic. I'm not sure if you've seen WandaVision, but there was one of the characters, he basically says, "What is grief if not love persevering?" And it was like, Because I found myself this past fall, I guess, in a space of grief, and I didn't really realize what, because I told myself, and it can kind of show up through depression or however, but I was in this weird space where I was like, well, I'm not depressed because I'm not crying, I'm not sad, and I'm not angry. I just was blah. I was just, my energy was low. People noticed, and it was just like, well, I don't know, like, I'm good. Everybody's like, are you okay? Are you depressed? I'm like, no, I'm good. The fuck, why are you asking? And I realized it was grief. I was grieving multiple things. You know what I'm saying? I was grieving the end of a friendship at the time. I was grieving a broken heart. I was grieving the loss of a job. I was, it was just all these things at one time. And I realized that the way that my grief has always shown up for me is out of sight, out of mind. So if I'm not seeing you, if I'm not actively having to deal with this, I just won't. But it still has to show up because it's not being dealt with. And I realized that, and I was like, oh, that's what the hell I was going, because I knew I was off too, but I just couldn't pinpoint it. I didn't really understand what I was going through. And it was like, there's one more quote of this actress, Natasha Lyonne.
Oh, yeah.
Love her. And she was talking about we're kind of always in grief, whether we realize it or not, because life is changing, pretty much every day. We can be grieving something that happened to us yesterday while also still grieving something that happened 5 years ago that we haven't even fully acknowledged. So it's like I was at that place, and I'm like, okay, so now I'm trying to explore my grief in a way that I can understand how it shows up and what it does to me. Yeah, right. So I guess with that in mind, my first question is, how has your life shaped your understanding of love and grief?
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
My life. How's it shaped my understanding?
So I guess one of the things I can mention to give you, like, I guess, just what comes to mind for me, one of the things was I realized I've always struggled with death in a sense. Because, like I said, out of sight, out of mind. And I used to kind of think there was something wrong with me. Because it was like, why am I not sadder? Why am I not hurting more? And it was like, oh, no, that's not, it's I do have to take the time to really grieve this person, but there's nothing wrong. That's just with the ADHD, that's how my brain operates. Out of sight, out of mind.
I could feel that. All right, so how my life I'll start with love. How my life has shaped my view and understanding of love. Well, okay, so I'll start with a few years ago, where my whole perception of love shifted. And that was like I was dealing with a breakup. And we had, it is. And it was a long-term relationship, almost 6 years. And we had broken up for a year. And it was one of them things where it was like, you didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. We simply just grew apart. So we still like had that love, but it wasn't a connection anymore. And so that's like kind of difficult, right? Because you can't point fingers like you did this and I did this. And, it's just like, oh, this just
doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. And that was tough. So yeah, I started going into like, well, what's wrong with me? Am I ever going to find love? What do I have to fix? That's
the trap.
Yes, it is the trap. You start to question yourself instead of just being like, well, simply this ended and we had our time and it's time to move on, end of the cycle. And I had to really reflect back on, my parents. And like growing up, they showed a lot of love to each other. But then in my teenage years, they got divorced. My dad had an addiction problem, and that was just a lot to deal with.
Singing my song.
Yeah. He definitely liked to indulge in the crack cocaine, and I'm like, bruh, this is crazy. And so, just seeing my parents' marriage fall apart. and missing my father, who was actually the nurturing one. And left me with my mother, who tried her best. She nurtures in her own way, but she was the more masculine dominant energy one. I'm paying the bills, get stuff done, taking care of you guys. You know, you're good.
Yeah, you are literally.
And it's like, well, love, but so yeah, that felt lacking, and so I started looking for love in relationships. Right, I wanted that nurturing energy in relationships, only to find out that I attract partners who are like my mother. Yeah. And I'm like my father, nurturing. So it's like, I want nurturing, but I'm the nurturer. So now I'm attracting all these people who are just like, well, you're a nurturing one.
That's so funny because, like, I mean, one, like I said, that's my song. That's my jam. Like that's straight up my part, like most of my story, the difference was, instead of that, it was alcohol. But the thing is, like, when you grow up with that, some people get it, they're looking for it in a sense of because there's a separation. Mine's there wasn't. And so it was like seeing essentially the downfall up close, and it was like consistent. Now I have to look for it in the sense of I'm trying to be the opposite, but I'm pulling to myself the same, you know what I'm saying? The same, like you said, the same things. And for me, I've always kind of put a lot of pressure on myself in the sense of being the balance, being the one that can calm everyone down or connect with everybody. So it was like, oh, I failed here. I couldn't do it. So now, I'm going out looking for other relationships that make me feel like I failed. Like, damn, you're just not
perpetuating that story. Yeah.
Literally. And it was like, well, wait a minute. And I think, I'm probably gonna say this a couple times. I gotta stop, but I can't help it because everything goes back to it. But your life is talking to you. Yes. And it was like not even just in relationships. It started to affect every other area of my life. With me being an artist, I've always done a lot of shit, choir, all that. And it was like I would be like, damn, am I good enough for that? Can I do that? Should I try that? I don't know. But like knowing on some level internally, yes. But so much other things around it was just like, no. You ain't good enough for that, nigga. What you doing?
I mean, yeah.
It was like I had to realize where that came from. And it's something that I still, again, grief. I still have, I'm still working on because it's not my job. It was never my job. It's good that you can do that, but that's not your job.
Exactly. One of my favorite readers say, "You're not other people's
actually,
gods."
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Yeah, you just went out. Interesting.
Can you hear me now?
All right. Is it my headphones or I'm talking shit about you? Oh no. Okay, so those are still good. Huh. Let me pause the show for a second. But okay, yes, we are back. But yeah, like realizing certain things were never my responsibility, and the grief that I was giving myself from them was kind of like the issue,
Yeah, I was saying, like one of my favorite readers would say is, "You're not other people's God." So it's not up to you to do anything except listen to them if they want. But, you can't, like you said, lead a horse to water, can't make it drink. If people don't want to change, you can't make them. They got to be ready. They got to be open.
And that's such a hard when you're a person, specifically like empath, like you mentioned. When you're empathic, when for myself, I've always been really interested in psychology and things like in another life, I'm probably a therapist.
Yeah.
So when you have all that, you can kind of pinpoint what someone else might be going through. It's so hard to just step away from it. It's so hard to be like, and that's another form of grief. You're grieving that you can't help this person in the way that you see that they need help.
Yes.
It's like, damn, if you would just do this, you would be fuck it.
Yeah, no, because they got to learn on their own, or else what's the point?
Everybody got their own lessons. Be back.
Exactly. And so I definitely am not taking part of anybody's lessons anymore.
Right. So I mean, I guess technically we kind of went over this next question a bit, but it was just, the question was, can you share a personal experience where you navigated through love and loss? And I think that kind of was.
Well, actually, I have another one. Actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Now this one, it was. This kind of ties into like my awakening point. Now this came in my journey. This opened me up to my Kundalini awakening.
Yes.
And so actually I am a pet parent, so I have my little fur babies. And I used to travel for work, and on a work trip my cat got out and got hit by a car.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. And I was devastated because I had this cat from birth. It was my sister's, litters of her cat. So I had him for 6.5 years, and literally he was my soulmate in the form of a cat. Like he was like a familiar, some people will call him that, right?
Yep.
So he was like a little piece of me, and that devastated me so much because a lot of my life at the time I suffered from depression and anxiety. And so taking care of them gave me purpose. Like, okay, I can wake up and do what I got to do today because I got to take care of them.
Something or someone that has to rely on me. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. It gave me purpose. So when he died, I was like, oh Lord, forget the fact I have 2 other pets. I was like, no, this one right here, and that I cried harder for my cat than I did for when my dad died, which is ridiculous. But
I get it.
It's like a child, but but that actually made me say, okay, so what is your purpose now? What are you living for? And realizing I gotta really find out a reason to wake up every day that isn't tied to something that I can lose, and so that opened up my that opened me up in that tragedy. And I went through this awakening process where I opened up to just a year or so earlier to unconditional love, like the love of God, the love of the universe. And once you feel that kind of love, then you won't settle for anything less because you know what you're worthy of.
Yeah, that is yes. First off, it made me think of 2 things. One, there's a quote by Janae Eiko who basically just says you have to break yourself open. You have to be broken to find that light in yourself. A lot of times, we go through things and we're just like, why me and all that, but it's if you can find the good in it, if you can find the light in it, then it starts the process of, like how you said, Kundalini, like really waking yourself up. And I remember, and then also this is tie into living for something that you can't lose. My awakening kind of happened in a similar fashion. This was around the time I had dealt with heartbreak, like my first real, I was devastated. I had lost my brother around this time. I was in college and not really knowing, or kind of getting, into college, not really knowing what the hell I was doing, feeling overwhelmed. And just I kind of lost a bit of myself in just the flux of everything. It was a crazy couple of years. It was, between 2010 and then graduated high school too. So it was like, that first summer back is crazy because everything is so different. It was like between 2010, 2012, a lot had happened. And so it was like, I had gotten, like I said, heartbroken, broken open. And I was at this place of like, well, what's the point? All this shit. And I always kind of felt like, and I used to say it in a pessimistic kind of way. That shit just always happens to me. But now I laugh at it. I love it because I'm like, damn, my life just is crazy. But it's for a reason. I laugh at all the shit that has happened and continues to happen because I'll be like, of course, only me. Like, and it opened me up to the thing for me was something that I always had, but I lost. But my art. Art has always been my safe haven, my safe space, my you know, like, and I'm to the place where I can express so many things through that, you know.
Yeah,
like, and so like I said, it opened me up, and actually give me one quick second. I gotta pause again once again. It opened me up, and I started to study Buddhism and yoga and everything like that, and just starting to accept grief. And it's crazy how that was, you know, 12, 13, 14 years ago, and I'm still, it's the cycle, you know, we always come back around to deeper understandings, and it's like now I'm understanding grief on a whole nother level.
Yeah, I think that's what people, you know, there is not one awakening and you know it all. It's like you're constantly going through life uncovering, like, first you start off with the surface level stuff, and then the further you go, the deeper it gets, so you can really get to the core and really live the truest expression of yourself. And like you said, like, that experience of really opening myself up as far as unconditional love led to me pursuing my creative ventures. Like, before then,
I had to get it out. I need to get this out. How do I get it out?
It was amazing. Like, just really that release opened me back up to be like, oh, this is who I am. I forgot that somewhere along the way.
Along the line. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because literally I've written poetry my entire life. And then, you know, again, life happens. You lose certain parts of yourself or forget about them. And that's literally what happened. I started back. Since then, I've written like a couple books. Like, I've written poetry like almost every single day of my life for these past decade plus. But it came back to me. I hadn't done it in a while. And it came back to me in this moment of heartbreak. I'm like, this is so much. This is so heavy. I need to, and I didn't want to, you know, I was the person at the time, especially because I was still in my victim bag. It was very easy for me to just talk about it and just be like, but it's like, okay, but I'm sure people are tired of me talking about this shit. You know, you become the person who always that one nigga or whatever.
God.
Okay. And I'm like, okay, I need to find a way to get this out. And I just remember, and it was the name of my first poetry book that came out like 2 years ago. But I was entering, you know, the area of spirituality and everything, and I was just like, okay, so I guess I'm the boy who lucid dreams. And that's literally the title of the poem and the book. And it was just like about me having this person that I wanted to be with, but only being able to have in my dreams. And it was just like, again, woke me back up to myself. And I wrote, my hands, I was like, wow. And before I knew it, after a couple of years, I was like, I guess I'm kind of over it. Like, I still have moments, you know, I think, especially with doing this show, I've had to go back over a lot of my relationships and situationships and stuff. But the grief from it is gone.
I love that because also it's kind of similar as well. My first book, which I'm in the editing stages of now to publish hopefully next month. But yeah, thank you. It's called Surrendering Shadows. And I wrote that.
I had a chill.
But I wrote that in the midst of, this wasn't right after me and my ex broke up. It was a year later when we reconnected because she reached out to me for my birthday. And it was like, initially when we reconnected, you feel that spark again. But then when we got around each other, you know what? It wasn't even but it was different. It was so different. And in that year that we were apart, we literally just really grew far apart. And it made me realize I did the right thing, because I had spent that whole time like, oh, I love her so much. I gotta, fix myself and
oh my God,
maybe, And I was like, oh, you know what? I'm good on this. But the realization that because I did spend a whole year, like I'm going to fix myself to get back in this relationship. And when that time came and I realized, oh, this is not going to work, I was like, well, what do I do now? And I was heartbroken all over again. Like, it's weird to say, like, but I was devastated.
So that's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly it.
And that made me write the book. I was like, it started off with poems, and then the poems led to short stories. And it came about letting go, the art of letting go, to be able to grow, and the understanding of true unconditional love. And I was like, wow. And that helped me process all of my feelings, but also at the same time, it made me realize what I deserve. And I was like, well, I'm not holding out until, I'm holding out till I meet my equal.
I love it. I'm slightly like the same, but opposite. Because I understand that for me, like I said, doing this, I've had to go back over my relationships and situationships, guys liked all that stuff. And it was like, I wanted to find where my fault was. It was like, okay, I'm having these situations, I'm the victim, things are happening, but like there has to be something I'm doing. And I learned and again, just go back to even, I think, the beginning of the episode, we were talking about people reflecting. And in doing so, I kind of re-broke my heart a little bit in kind of re-examining these situations. But then I also learned what my pattern was. It was like, I don't, and it's crazy how things affect you, but grief. I was a kid, I remember elementary school, it was like 3rd or 4th grade. Gave in, but at the time, you're kids, so you're not really thinking about that. Yeah. So there was just this experimental weird stage, and there was this one girl I liked. And I remember I was always very dramatic, and I've talked about it on the show before too, but I'm understanding it differently and how it's affected my relationships since, or just when I have feelings. I traced this girl a picture of Scrappy Doo, and on his little dog tag, it's like, be mine. Just some little cute shit. And everybody knew I had a crush on her. Everybody knew. It was one of those things. And I folded it up and I put it in her locker, like secret admirer, And I remember I was standing in my locker with like 2 or 3 of my friends, and she opened up her locker or whatever. She saw it. She ripped it up. And like 3rd grade kids, you at school, and it's like, oh, I'm good, but I was fucked up. Like that really fucked me. And I never dealt with the grief of that, and I realized, for most of my relationships, I've reached this spot of like, I don't tell people how I feel for real. I expect that, like, I'm always just expecting them to tell me how you feel. You like me, you want me. That's cool. But I don't, I recall the first major heartbreak I had. I remember he told me, you don't really give me anything. And I'm like, I'm around you all the time. I'll talk to you all the time. What do you mean? But it's like, just because I'm doing that, some people still need to hear it. And I looked at it, I was like, damn, I never did it to any of my relationships or anything. And I was like, damn, I'm still grieving that shit from 3rd grade.
Wow. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it imprints on us. And if we don't ever look at that, then it just sits there and festers. and
it starts to come out in different ways that you're not even aware of.
Absolutely.
It's funny because I think we kind of, we're answering the questions before. Like, it's naturally just going. But I think that's a testament to the chemistry in the conversation, and also to my interviewing skills.
Yes.
But, so how do you find balance between embracing grief and celebrating love in your life?
Well, I mean, life is about balance. Everything is about duality. And so really understanding that without the grief, without the pain, then I could never feel love at a deep level. Yeah. So I try to remember that when I'm going through something. Luckily, I haven't had to deal with too much grief, though. It is funny that you said that earlier about recognizing grief. A few months back, I kind of hit like a stagnant point. And I didn't realize that I was depressed because there wasn't movement. But I'm still living my everyday life, feeling good, and
and I think we don't recognize, because, like I said, for me, I wasn't crying and I wasn't like angry. I was just there.
Yeah. And I had to realize, oh wait, yeah, you're depressed.
You're going through something. And so
Yeah.
like I was like, oh, I mean, I guess I have lost a lot of things in the past couple
Right.
months.
Yeah. What? Try the past few
literally.
years, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I try to remind myself of my life always. I love to reflect because I'd be like, damn, that's crazy how that happened. And then if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So, and I remind myself that nobody ever told me life is going to be easy because it's not.
Yeah.
I think we have this perception that everything's supposed to be good and easy and just you don't go through it. No. That is not life. And you can't get, like you said, there. How do you know what a good day is if all you ever had is good days?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I can appreciate when my life is good because I know what it's like when it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like I have some bad days, I'd be like, God damn. And it's like when I have the good ones, I'm like, oh, I'm going to embrace this moment because
exactly right.
It's a roller coaster. And I think the balance in that, at least for me, is finding a way to express it. That's my biggest thing. I think trying to get it out as best you can. That's always saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
And just kept me going. Like like I said, you know, I wrote about that one relationship for like 6 years.
That's a long time.
I'm not even ashamed. Because it was like before I knew it, I remember something else. I think about something else, and I'm like, shit, that's a poem.
Hey, you know, milk that creativity. That's your muse right there. Yeah.
And you know, I had situations after that I've done the same way of just like, okay, well now how am I going to balance this with my life? So yeah, I just think it's really just it's a game of just reminding yourself that it's all a roller coaster. It can't always be bad. It can't always be good.
And one thing I'll say that I learned is, and I want to touch on this side note, situationships. I want to touch on that in a minute. But this one thing, all right. But before we go to that, oh man,
right.
There was this one situation though where I actually it changed my perspective on love as well. I was in a situation where I felt an intense connection with someone, but there was no physical intimacy. Like it was not a relationship in that way. It was a professional relationship, but on an energetic level, it was crazy. And the fact that they were seducing me, but on an energetic level, like that was the first time I felt a soul connection to someone. So it was insane. It was really a lot and intense. But I realized something. I mean, that couldn't work because they were definitely married. But I realized something, though, that you can connect and love people on a deeper level without having to be physically involved, right? And it opened me up to a different idea of love, and that was soul connection, love, something I never felt before. Now, like that just raised the bar because I'm like, if I don't feel you, then
if we're in here, listen,
that it changed the game for me. I was like, wow, this is
I love that because I guess that was also part of why my situation, like I said, I wrote about it for like 6 years because it was like something that I hadn't had before. It was I think about you call me thing. It was just that connection that was on another level. And I've had that twice. And both times, didn't work out, however, in the long run. But they were the kind of situations, and this is what I believe that I deserved at the time, where there was physical, but not all the time. It was physical when they wanted it. It was physical, and when I tried, it was just like, oh no, let's just not. We're friends.
Wow.
I've had that twice, and on some level, I believe that was okay because I'm like, well, I know I'm. Like I said, with the Scooby-Doo shit, or the Scrappy-Doo picture, third grade, that same boy was still here being like, I would watch the rom-coms. I'm like, oh, I'm afraid that they're going to realize one day and be like, you know what? You've been here the whole time. No. They're not, because that's not what this is. And I had to like, really push that in my brain. Like, you deserve somebody who knows that they want you.
Yes.
Who doesn't just want you sometimes, or because they're drunk, or whatever. Like, you deserve somebody to just straight up be like, hey, I want you. and I deserve to also, like, I was hiding saying that I deserve to be able to say I want you. Mm-hmm. So it was like on both ends, I deserve more.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think that's game changing, right? To be like, I deserve someone who wants me.
Because we don't realize how much we don't think we do. Like, we don't realize how much we don't think we deserve. I mean, I've acknowledge it. You just deal with whatever.
And that was perfect. That was a perfect segue into the situationship type of deal. Because that's where I had to learn myself, like, really be like, well, what do you think you're worth? If it was a crazy situation that you attracted this person and you're going through this situation, like, what is it that you think you deserve? Because I felt like I did a lot of work on myself and all of this, and then I ended up not randomly, of course, but in a situation out of the blue, because it just went
That's
crazy.
Always how it happened. They pop right. The devil. Hey, nothing but the devil.
Man, I had no intention. I wasn't even attracted, not even the slightest bit. It was nothing about it that I was like, I want to be involved in this, but she just happened to catch me at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, the devil.
It was definitely the devil. All right, and it caught me in a weak moment of temptation, and as if the universe said, "Oh yeah, you did go through all that stuff, and now you're here. So what are you about to learn?" Like, less than a month later, she moves into my home because she hit me. Like, literally, it was insane. Like, I didn't even know this girl. And I was like, and she hit me with a sob story and was like, I have nowhere to go. And my child.
You had a homosexual. Yeah. I did too.
And it was the winter time. She must have been clocking like, I'm about to find me a nice swarm.
And I think it literally does come in the craziest times, because that was my last relationship, essentially. I do think there were some feelings at some point, because we started to have a deep connection, but that was a homosexual, because looking back at the situation, I never went to your place. I never met any of your friends. You knew all my friends. I never met. I didn't know. I like look back. I'm like, damn. I didn't know shit about this man's life. And before I knew it, he was moving in. Like, I was just so in the motions of it and just letting it happen, and it just felt so good, because I was in another place of heartbreak from something previous that I was just like, well, I want to focus on this. Let me try to make this happen, so I don't have to think about this other shit no more. And it just only made it worse.
I mean, mine's a little opposite, because I definitely didn't want the person. It just kind of happened, and I was stuck in a very bad situation, because I didn't. Obviously, in less than a month, you can't know too much about somebody. Boy, oh boy.
And I was just after like a year, so it was like I kind of knew, but like I didn't, because like I said, I realized I'd never seen your place. I had never met any of your friends, all these siblings that you claimed to have, and I didn't know anything about his life for real. And I didn't, I'm looking back now, like, that nigga just needed somewhere to stay.
Yeah.
Like, it definitely started there. Again, we got to some feelings and all that stuff, but it definitely started off on some homosexual shit.
That situation, I kind of had to remove myself. I ended up just moving back home to Atlanta, because I had to get away, because it was like a leech. They would energy vampire. Like, she would not go away. And I'm like, well, then I guess I got to remove myself from this situation, and I will. And I did. But I really had to look back at why I even attracted that situation in the first place. And I realized that I was meeting a lot of quality women at the time, and I was getting excited. But then it made me be like, oh, wait.
Am I quality?
Yeah. Like, like, do I even match up to this? Like, and then start having a self-doubt. And then it was like, oh, you doubt yourself. Well, do you want this? And it was like, no, I don't want that. So yeah, I had to really learn.
That spiral is a bitch, and like I've always like I'm at the point where I don't struggle with it anymore because I'm just like I realize I don't want a relationship right now. I'm actually really selfish in my life right now, and not even in a bad way, but I don't have time. I don't care about what your favorite color is right now. I don't care how you grew up, where you're born. Right now, I don't have the time. Like I'm not gonna think about you how I should. So I've realized that spiral is a motherfucker I've had, and like I said, that was my biggest thing of like not feeling like why should I express myself? Why should I be like, oh my god, I think about you all the time. I just want to because they're probably just gonna rip it up anyway, like, that internal thing of never like dealing with that grief. Okay, so question, I have like two more. What insights have you like being doing podcasts and everything like that? What has that experience provided you in regards to the journeys of other people? Like, are there things that you kind of notice that there's a common, thread with a lot of it, or because we get to talk to a lot of people?
Actually, there's a few things I've noticed. One of those things is if we can dive into really spirituality, yes. Over, of course, COVID. I mean, we can look at it from a, 3-dimensional level, right? It was a virus that happened to shut the world down. But if you look at it at a more energetic level, that was a balancing of the earth, and those people that were in tune with the earth, they actually activated with the earth. And so there was a new shift in era. And so around that time, many people's lives changed drastically. And it was interesting because I was not on social media at that time. So I was going through my stuff like, life is crazy. And then actually getting out there and talking to people, realizing,
it's crazy as fuck for all of us.
Yes, right. And like, wow, okay. So this is like a literal activation. So that was exciting. And also the core theme, which seems to be the thing that everybody needs to work through, is inner child healing. And that aligns with being authentic, right? So inner child healing, because obviously that shapes who you are.
And people really don't realize that. That's why, again, like I keep bringing up, I've brought up this story a couple times on the show, but the third grade moment, because that affected how I looked at love, along other things, but that was how I not even so much as looked at love, but looked at my own feelings. Of like, okay, keep this to yourself. You don't want to get laughed at, you don't want to get teased, you don't want to get that torn apart or whatever. So it was like, if I never tried to heal that, I would still be kind of in that place of like, all right, well, I like you. Hopefully because I ain't about to say shit. Like, I hope you know that I like you, because I'm like, it was like, I look back at it and I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I literally, like, I expected you to know how I feel. So I don't have to say it. And it's like, that's so, you know what I'm saying? But we operate from our inner child.
Yes.
Like, that's the biggest thing. So it's just like, once you can start to look at some of those areas, like you have, I think we remember certain memories because those are those triggers or those moments, because you don't remember your whole childhood. But there's some things that stick, and it's like, why do I remember this so vividly?
And actually, you saying that just kind of like awakens a thought in my mind, like, oh wow, I guess I noticed this. Make me have realizations over here, like
that's what we do at the journal. That's what we do.
I think growing up in such a strict religious household and being someone who is queer, someone who is deeply spiritual and spiritually connected, and deeply into science and exploring the world, all those things were wrong, right? So when it came to me being able to express myself to other people in actually trying to date, I realized that I held back a lot because I got used to being told like, no, like this is wrong about you.
Yeah, that's another one because I never got a chance to I was thinking about, you know, the same thing, you know, being a queer man growing up in fucking Detroit. All black. I mean, that's like 95% black. And it was like a lot of experiences that my brothers got a chance to have. I couldn't. You know, they could bring their girls home and shit like that, or for the holidays or whatever. I never got a chance to do that.
Yeah,
so it was like I had to keep my shit to the side and separate anyway. So it became easy to just not express it.
Right. 100%. And even now, I had to come to terms with the fact, like I came to terms with that maybe some years ago, that one day I do want to get married, and I'm okay with the fact that half my family ain't gonna be there, and that's just what it is.
I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly right. Oh well, but you'll hear about it from the grapevine.
That's it. So last one. What practices or rituals have you found helpful in processing emotions associated with love and grief? Like your kind of go-tos almost, you know?
One I will say is journaling or scripting. Yeah, absolutely.
I love my journal right here.
Yeah, me too.
I have notebooks for years. Like
yeah, that one. And actually, I'll give you 3 because one is like grief, but the second one would be breath work, right? Because we hold like so much tension and emotions in our bodies.
I'm learning about that too. Yeah, we hold a lot of tension. Yeah.
So you can actually pull that out of you, and it's almost like it's like too much if you start really getting into the deep trauma. Yeah. And the last one, to deal with grief, I do burning rituals.
Ooh, okay. I love it.
Yeah, just that mixes in with scripting. Write it down, burn it up, release it. That's it.
Especially under a full moon.
Exactly.
I would say my 3. 1, I agree. Journaling, like I know an empty notebook hate to see me coming.
Right. And pens, they be running away.
Man, because I'm about to I'm about to get it and I'm about to fill it up like with everything. Another one is music and singing. I come from a musical family. Like my mom sings, my dad rap sings, my older brother, one of my aunts. Like it's just something that I've always kind of been around. When I was in choir in high school, stuff like that. So for me, that's kind of one of my favorite. Like if I'm in a spot where I can sing, I'm about to blow for like an hour. Like I need to get this out. Or if I'm not in that space, headphones on. And I'm playing everything from R&B to rock to hip hop, like just everything. And then
I'll add that. I got 4, so I'm gonna add that one to mine. Go ahead.
Hey, okay. And then the last one I've gotten more into the past couple of years. I'm 32, so I guess that makes sense. But psychedelic healing, shrooms, acid, and I've ventured into DMT a few times, and every time, like with shrooms and acid, it was partially for artistic purposes because I do graphic design and I love the look of things. I'm just like, oh my God, I can look at this all day. But then with DMT, it was such a deeper, that was like, I don't even know how to explain it for real. Like I wrote it down in my journal every time I've done it. As soon as I'm done, I'm like, okay, I need to get this out because I don't know how else to really say it, which is weird. But I can write it, but I can't say it.
No, I understand.
Yeah, and it was like it's helped me come to terms with some of my grief, or just love in general. Like the first time I did it, it helped me, and it was like actually a little bit after I started doing this show. It helped me realize my connection to love. And how connected we all are. And it was like, so it deepened my empathy in that sense of like, most of the time we think that we're going through some brand new shit that nobody can ever understand. And there's a billion people on the planet. You're not experiencing some revolutionary emotion. You're experiencing what everybody experiences. You're feeling what everybody feels. And it was that realization of like, oh, that helped me come to terms with I'm not a victim.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a victim to life or love. I am just experiencing it just the same way we all are.
Yes,
so yeah,
that's perfect. Yeah, we are all just experiencing life, and it is just our job to experience it, enjoy it. That's all.
And like we really do. Like I think that was one of the things. Just to hop back on the other question of like podcasting and seeing the connection with people and everything like that. That was one of the things I started to notice from a lot of stories or just people in general of like we get to this space where we convince ourselves nobody's going to understand. There's no way you'll know what I'm going through. Why wouldn't I? I mean, maybe I haven't gone through, but somebody has gone through.
Right. Exactly. There's nothing that we can even think of that somebody else hasn't thought of.
That's it. Yeah, this was a good one. I needed this. I've been
me too.
I'm in a spot of understanding grief, and just I think that's why also doing podcasts helps. I think
it's healing.
The connection, it is. It's very healing. The person that I was at the beginning, like I said at the beginning of the episode, I could not listen to love songs. I'm like, turn that shit off. Or looking at the TV if the rom-com come on, like, just bothered. So bothered. And it's like I've changed so much from that. So yeah, it's definitely an important thing to do. So of course I appreciate you for doing this with me, sharing your vulnerability and the honesty. I always love it. Before I let you go, just give the people a quick little spiel, the show, where to find you.
Yes, and it's been a pleasure to be here, and this has.
I might have to go ahead and have you back on.
This is great. Anytime, I love this. But you guys, I have the Drunken Buddha podcast that will be out in April, so tune in for that. If you're somebody who really enjoys spirituality and really wants to open yourself up, because right now is the time. That's all I can say.
I'm telling you, that's all.
Hop on the train.
Yeah, for real.
Give it the program.
I was gonna say too. We have our episode for your show too. I really want to dive into. I mean, it's your show, but I really want to dive into, because you mentioned it when we did our talk previously. Just like quantum physics and quantum immortality.
Yes.
I've been getting into it a lot lately, and I'm like, I've always kind of been into quantum physics, but the theory of quantum immortality is where I've really just been like, huh. So yeah, if you could just note that down for me.
Oh yes. I'll remember that. I got that. But I love it. I would definitely love that. So if you're into that stuff too, definitely check that out.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, no, I will definitely hit you up again. This is a good one, and I'll go ahead and set up my stuff for
I'll send you the link. Yeah, the link.
But other than that, love, I appreciate you. Have a great night, and I will be talking to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Myself